When Khloe had shown up on his doorstep, surprising him by flying into Dublin from Boston, he should have sent her to the nearest hotel with the promise of getting together over breakfast the next morning, when he was sober. But instead, his alcohol-addled head had invited her in, and her visit of friendship had turned into a night of the most mind-blowing sex he'd ever had. She'd been innocent before she'd appeared at his house, before he'd taken that wide-eye innocence and filled that emerald gaze with passion and knowledge Michael would have killed him for placing there. Any woman. He could have fucked any woman. But Khloe? He shook his head, the flare of agony at his temples sending black and gold dots scattering before his eyes. He stumbled, stubbing his toe. Pain blared from his foot, and he hopped to the side, leaning against the corridor wall. God damn it! He glared down at the large brown box that blocked the hallway leading to the kitchen. Why in the hell would he leave the thing right there? Again memory dawned, and grief welled up inside him, a fresh, hot geyser that overwhelmed him, plowing him down until his ass hit the floor, his back thumping against the wall. Right, the box, or rather what occupied it, had been his most recent reason for getting ossified. He'd finally cleaned out Michael's office and had brought his best friend's personal items home. Neil had also cleared his own office of everything that reminded him of the man who'd been like a brother to him. It seemed blasphemous, almost sad, that the essence of the kindest, strongest, most honorable man Neil had ever known could fit into a drab cardboard container. Fingers trembling, Neil reached for a flap, dragged the box closer. Pictures, books, ticket stubs, physical mementos greeted him like old friends. This time Neil didn't fight the deluge of memories. He picked up a pile of photos, images of him and Michael as teens at dances, at school, then later as adults in college, in the New York offices of Dure Music, the record label Neil's family owned and ran. He softly snorted. Yeah, Michael's parents hadn't been happy when their son had abandoned his plans of becoming an educator to follow his heart into the music business, nor had they been fans of Neil, who in their eyes was no better than the snake with Eve, tempting their son away from the path of stability and respectability into the world of sex, drugs, and rock and roll. They hadn't seen the passion for music in their son that had originally connected him and Neil. Grinning, Neil palmed a dirt-smudged baseball. Coming to live in Boston at 13 years old had exposed him to America's favorite pastime, and the Red Sox. Exposure to what had become two of the biggest loves of his life had been worth the move across the Atlantic. With a low hum of pleasure, he reverently withdrew the first edition of The Great Gatsby, his favorite book, the novel that had been a gift from Michael for Neil's 27th birthday. Hearing the outraged squawks of book collectors everywhere ringing in his ears, he smoothed his fingertips over the clear book jacket that covered and protected the mint-condition dusk jacket and opened the novel. A smile hitched the corner of his mouth. He could so easily become sucked into the world belonging to Nick Carraway, Jay Gatsby, and the village of West Egg. Through the years, he often had. Michael had witnessed Neil's headlong fascination with the tale of decadence, idealism, and ultimately disillusionment, and his gift to Neil had been the best he'd ever received. He gently thumbed through the pages, every so often pausing to read, then continuing. As the familiar outrage at Tom's hypocrisy rose in him, he flipped past the scene and stared at the thin, white envelope that fluttered from the book and glided to the floor like a paper airplane. What the hell? He frowned, bending to swipe up the card-sized mailer. He flicked it over. Fuck no, he breathed. His heart stalled in his chest, then revved into hyperdrive as he studied his name written in a bold handwriting, a handwriting he knew as well as his own. Though his pulse hammered in his ears like a mallet striking an anvil, he carefully opened the envelope and removed the single sheet of paper within. Neil. Jesus Christ. If he hadn't been sitting on the floor, his knees would have buckled under the shock that plowed into him with the force of a wildly swung haymaker. Jesus Christ, he silently repeated. It couldn't be. It fucking couldn't be. But as he scanned the letter on Dure Music's stationery, he couldn't deny he was reading a message from his